If you've ever wondered how a movie can be a commercial failure and considered one of the greatest Tamil films you've ever seen, then you better settle in because I'm breaking down Anbe Sivam right now. So, this film was brought to my attention because I reviewed a film, and I'm sorry, I can't remember which one it was, but I said the film I watched reminded me of planes, trains, and automobiles. And a lot of you said to me, you should check out this film, Abne Savam, which is kind of a takeoff of that. So I said, you know what? I want to see it. And someone did make a formal recommendation, and that was, and this is a new maniac, at Crito Anime 26. Crito Anime 26. Again, it was directed by Sundar C. It stars Kamal Haasan, who I am a huge fan of. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. Nayakan, Hey Ram, Thug Life. I wasn't too crazy about Thug Life. Madhavan, who was in the second Indian movie I ever saw, Three Idiots. Vikram Vedha in Dhurandhar recently. Kiran Rathod, who was in PK, Tanhaji, the Unsung Warrior, and Nasser, who was in Bahubali 1 and 2, Thug Life in Retro. This film was written by Kamal Haasan. His character, who wears very thick glasses, he had to wear, they were so strong that he had to wear contact lenses to counteract the magnification of those glasses he was wearing. His eyes look huge in those glasses, too. The film is actually based on Hassan's view, which I was not aware of. Now, in hindsight, when I think about some of his other movies, I guess it makes sense. But it's really about his views of communism, atheism, and altruism. Communism played a big part in this film too, which really surprised me. And the theme of the film is love is God, and that's his atheism. That God isn't a deity, someone you pray to. God is in all of us. You are God. That's a line from the film. So the story is very simple. Two men get stranded um, at the airport during a monsoon, and Madhavan's character is an ad guy, and he's got to get to, I think, where was he going? Mumbai, I think, maybe. I'm not 100% sure where he was going, but he was heading somewhere. And he's engaged too, which you find out. Now, I'm not going to break down this story, each scene of it, because you guys don't like that, even though I do like it. And so it's two guys who don't know each other, and through circumstance, they end up. It's a road trip movie. That's how it starts, anyway. And I'm going to say this too about this movie. I, I found this movie much less like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and far more like Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. That's what this film reminded me of. And the biggest reason is, like, Dustin Hoffman won the Academy Award for Rain Man. I thought Tom Cruise gave a better performance because Tom Cruise's character goes through a character arc. Dustin Hoffman doesn't. One note the entire film. Brilliantly played, but one note. Cruise goes through changes. It's the same thing in this film. A little bit different because of flashbacks. But Madhavan's the one who goes through the changes in this film, where Kamal Hassan's character, Sivam, is playing the same person for most of the movie, other than the flashback. But that's what it reminded me of. So it's their journey and how Madhavan's character, Anbarsu, is trying to ditch Nala Savam the whole film. Well, half the film before they get to the flashback. And how Savam's character always gets the better of him just by being who he is. Very upbeat, very and Kamal Hassan, who I've seen in a lot of stuff, I've never quite seen him like this. Uh, his body language, his facial expressions, his teeth, which they yanked a tooth out, so he's got a big gap in his teeth. He's got those big glasses. He kind of hunches over, and he smiles a lot. So that was cute, and that was that part of it was kind of like planes, trains, and automobiles. So so then they do this flashback after some hijinks, right? That Madhavan's getting more and more frustrated, and again he tries to blow him off, and he always ends up back. Um, and then there's a scene where a train derails right out of left field, which was, people are hurt, some were dead, and they're in the middle of this thing while they're doing this road trip, which was, I was like, what was that about? All of a sudden, it turned into that. He gets robbed. Then it goes to this flashback. Now, this is the part where, like, you look at Kamal Hassan and how he looked as Savam in the first part of the movie, and then what he looked like during the flashback, and it's like two completely different people. The body language, the confidence, the voice, all different. But he's introduced in this, and this is another thing. He's doing this. He's part of a theater troupe that's doing this performance in this little quad with a statue or something in the middle. And it's a very political thing he's doing too, because that's when it gets real political. And he's going after corporations and capitalism and all this other stuff. But what it reminded me of, because I was brought up musical theater, that's what I did. And one of the roles I've always wanted that I never got was the Music Man. And there's a scene in the Music Man where Harold Hill sings Trouble. And they're all surrounding him, and he's at this statue in the middle of it. That's what that reminded me of. But then it turns into a Jackie Chan fight where he's using every piece of furniture, every prop he can find to fend off these guys. It actually was a pretty good fight scene. I thought it was pretty good. Um, so he ends up being a communist union leader, and apparently Kamal Hassan is very pro-communism because that came up a lot during the movie, which again I found kind of surprising. But he ends up, this industrialist that he's making fun of. He ends up falling in love with his daughter. So right away, as far as the story goes, that's not going anywhere because the father's never going to allow that, right? But she's the love of his life, right? So they develop that relationship, and he's a painter, so he's painting for the father. Then they find out about his communist union ties, and now they don't want this to happen. Well, there's a scene where there's a bus accident, and it is horrific. And it's been a fairly light movie up to this point, other than the train derailment. But this is when he gets in this accident. She's with him too, by the way. But he gets mangled, and he's in the hospital, and that's when his whole appearance starts to change because of the damage that was done to him in this accident. It's a pretty harrowing bus accident too. But he does survive, but now he comes out like he looks in the first part. Um, and the father confronts him in the hospital, and he can't really talk because he's all bandaged up. But the father's going to tell the daughter, Bala, I think that was her name, Bala. Let me make sure that was Bala. Yeah, Bala Swarthy, actually, but they call it Bala. He tells her that he died. And, and, you know, I think, I think that, he's okay with that, even though he's in love with her. He knows it's not going to work. But there's also, he ends up taking on a dog, the dog who caused the accident. He ends up kind of adopting this dog in this persona because he goes back to where it happened. And at first, no one recognizes him. Then they're like, okay, because he looks so different. Um, so okay, so now they come back to the present. Now that's a big chunk of the movie too. But now they come back to the present, and what you find out, and this was, you know, I wasn't crazy about this part of the movie, but I understand why they had to do it. So what you find out is Madhavan is engaged. He's engaged to Bala, which Savam finds out when he goes to the wedding and sees her. Well, then the father sees her, and now they're going to kill him. Well, they're not going to kill him because the guy that was going to kill him thinks his boss, her father's bad. But Sivam is not one. He likes Madhavan. Two, he doesn't want to hurt Bala, so he accepts the fact that they're going to get married, and him and the dog kind of go away. And you know, I mean, the story, because it's a mashup of a bunch of different stories. I gave the story a 6. It was good, but it was you know, it wasn't really new. You know, everyone told me it was Plane, Trains, and Automobile, which it really wasn't. But it was a road trip, right? Two opposite personalities who end up begrudgingly respecting each other to the point that Madhav invites him to his wedding, right? But you know, some of the things that happened. First of all, they got together way too fast. There was no build up to it. All of a sudden, they're just okay. We'll stay at a hotel together. Like they're at the airport for 5 minutes. The flight get canceled. They're going to stay at the airport. So that was kind of silly. Now the performances, he's amazing to me. Kamal Hassan. He was, you know, he created this character, but it wasn't just, you know, sometimes they do cartoonish stuff to play a certain character, but he just, his whole physicality changed, because when you compare it to the flashback, it's like like I said earlier, you can't believe it's the same person. But he's just an amazing actor. And he played well off of Madhavan, although Madhavan I thought was a little too in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Steve Martin at one point kind of goes off on John Candy's character. But through most of the movie, he's a little annoyed, but he's, you know, he's not like mean. Madhavan is nasty in this film. And that, it was, for the type of film it was, I thought it was a little too, I don't know. He just seemed too mean to this guy who's trying to help him. Yeah, he was annoying and he did some annoying things, but he was trying to help him, and he was just kind of mean. Now, maybe that's because now he goes through this arc where he, you know, he becomes a nicer person to the guy and he appreciates him more. So, you know, and the rest, look, the rest of the performances were okay, but this is Kamal Hassan's film. So, in that regard, I gave the performances an 8 because he's just an amazing actor. And he's like one of those in my top 10 that, you know, he's probably in the top 5 as far as actors go. Because, like, I look at someone like SRK. I love SRK, but I don't put him with Kamal Hassan or Amir Khan or not Nawazuddin Siddiqui. I just don't. I love him for what he does, and he's had some great performances. But there are certain actors that every time they're in something, you know, they're just amazing performances. Like, you believe they're these people, and he's one of these that I think that whenever I see him and stuff. So that's why I give the performances an 8 because of him. Now the music, not a ton of it, but there was something. There was, the first song was really funny, where Madhavan's character, and he played this really great, eats cannabis paste and gets high. And it's a very funny scene where he's hallucinating and he's kind of goofy. And there's a song playing through that. I really like that. The second one was during the flashback, where he's the modern jester who's come to spread the message. And this was the very political message about multinational companies. But it's also where he met Bala. So that was the introduction song for her. The third song, he's painting. And he's working with Bala, painting a mural in the father's house, and they're falling in love. And these songs, there's only 4 of them, but they're long. The songs are long. And then finally, the montage when he's recovering in the hospital, where he goes from Sivam, the confident artist, performer, to Sivam, the what he ends up becoming. I don't know how else to say it. But that's a song that goes along. The music was fine. You know, it didn't blow me away. It didn't bother me. So I gave the music a 5. Overall, I really enjoyed it. And I think why I enjoyed it, like, I was really focused on the performance. Now, I don't know if that's good, because I cared less about the story, and I was just so engrossed in his performance. It was just so different. from what I've seen from him, and it was like such a committed performance, that I was kind of mesmerized by it. Where the whole movie itself, there were things in it that were kind of silly. Some of the tonal shifts were really stark, but that's typical. I'm used to that now. Um, but what would I give this? I'd give this movie an 8. Yeah, I'll give this movie an 8. Um, Let me know if you've seen it. What do you think about it? And what do you think about my comparison to Rain Man? Because I really do think it's more Rain Man than Plane, Trains, and Automobile. I'd like to know what you guys think. Let me know. Um, One other thing, and since no one's going to see this, um, you guys don't stick around till the end of it, but I'm going to say it anyway. So recently, I did a trailer reaction for what was it? Oh God, I can't remember the name of it. It was about the women who the husbands marry them and then try to groom them into their religion. Karasi 2, something like that. But someone got really upset with me, or upset's not the right word, disappointed, and they unsubscribed because they said they I think they said they lost respect to me. And it was someone, I won't give their name because there was someone who was a big supporter of the channel and gave me some great recommendations. And I feel bad about that. But I don't, and I've explained this a few times, but I'll explain it again. I don't get overly political in these films because I don't know enough about it. I always say that when I look at these things, I look at them as a film goer. Now, some things will resonate with me. Some things I'll be like, oh, that's kind of rough, that kind of thing. But so to be offended because of, again, they say, well, it's propaganda. You might be absolutely right, but I don't know enough about both sides to say it is. I'm sure it depends what side you're on, right? Same thing with politics. It depends what side you're on. But what bothers me is I disappointed somebody, and I never want to do that. But I also got to, if you recommend something, I'm going to watch it. And that was recommended to me. You might not like it, but that's how I always done this show, and that's how I'll always do this show. So I'm sorry if I lose subscribers. I'm trying to gain subscribers. I don't want to lose any. But that's I just wanted to explain that, and I really did feel bad about that. But I guess that's what happens, right? You can't please everybody all the time. But I'm always going to be honest with you. And again, I look at these as a film goer. I don't look at them, the deep politics of it, because I'm ignorant to it. I know. Listen, I've learned a lot over the few years I've been doing this. I don't know enough though. Okay, that's just the reality of it. All right, that's it. Let me know what you think about that little rant if you stuck around long enough to see it. Okay, as always, do me a favor. Since I lost a subscriber, please subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button, and the most important thing is please share. That's how we can build this community to 3,000 maniacs. That's my goal. Okay? All right, that's it. We'll talk to you soon on John Talks Indian Cinema with another movie review, a trailer reaction, or a song reaction. Thanks for watching.